When the elevator doors were almost closing, a hand appeared and forced them open. I had nowhere to escape. This happened many years ago. At that time, I was working in a commercial building in San Francisco, USA. The company was on the 14th floor, and my workday started at 8 in the morning. The building was still closed at that hour, with the main entrance locked. Normally, I arrived around 8:30, used my key to enter the ground floor, which had only the lobby and 6 elevators. As soon as I entered, I saw a person standing in front of the elevators, wearing a huge jacket with the hood covering his face. He didn't look at me, just kept staring at the elevator. Usually, so early, I was the only one in the building. My colleague also started at 8, sometimes arriving almost at the same time, but most of the time I took the elevator alone. I pressed the button to go up and waited for the elevator to come down. The man continued to stand in front of elevator number 6, the farthest from the entrance. Before the building opened, the elevators were locked, so you had to enter a code. Each floor had a different code. For example, the code for my floor was 141414. By entering this code, the elevator would go directly to the 14th floor. 5 of the elevators only went up to the 10th floor, and only elevator number 1 went from the 11th to the 14th floor. While I waited, I heard the man muttering to himself. He glanced at me and then looked back at the elevator. I was a bit scared, but since you needed a key to enter, I thought he must work there and was just waiting for the elevator. The door of elevator number 6 opened, and he entered. I continued to wait for elevator number 1. When the elevator door closed behind him, I immediately felt relieved, but as my elevator came down to the lobby, I noticed that his elevator didn't go up. I immediately realized that he didn't work there because he didn't know how to use the code to make the elevator work. Finally, the door of elevator number 1 opened, and I quickly entered, starting to type my code. When the door was about to close, I saw a hand extending to force it open. He entered, the door closed, and the elevator started to go up. He pressed the button for the 5th floor, but the button didn't light up. The elevator continued to go up, past the 5th floor, and he didn't look at me. He murmured quietly, grabbing his arm and continuously putting his hand inside his jacket. I didn't say anything, just moved to the corner, trying to stay as far away from him as possible. He just looked at me, complaining, rocking back and forth, putting his hand in the inner pocket of his jacket. When we reached the 14th floor, I quickly got out, and he stayed in the elevator. The entire 14th floor was occupied by our company, but to enter the company lobby from the elevator, you had to unlock a door. With the key in my hand, I ran to unlock the door but couldn't open it. The scene felt like a movie. Our door was glass, and I saw my colleague already at his desk. He looked at me and realized something was wrong. I looked back and saw the man running toward me, yelling furiously. Terrified, I started banging on the door. Suddenly, the key worked, the door clicked open, and I slammed it shut behind me. He crashed into the door. My colleague and I called the police. While waiting for the officers to arrive, we had to stand behind the glass door watching the man. He paced back and forth, pressed his face against the glass, licking it and screaming at us. He couldn't leave because you needed the code to take the elevator down. So we had to keep an eye on him until the police arrived and arrested him. To this day, I don't know how that man got into the building or what he really wanted. Since then, I've never seen him again.